What is going on, everybody, and welcome back. We're here to talk about the Houston Open, to be more specific, the Texas Children's Houston Open. Going to be held at Memorial Park Golf Course, obviously in Houston. This is a fun event. So the course, it's par 70, but it does have 3 par 5s, 5 par 3s. It measures nearly 7,500 yards. So when you account for the par, it's actually one of the longest courses on the PGA Tour. We've seen it in the rotation in 4 of the last 5 years, so we do have a pretty good sample size of what the course is going to look like, what it's going to take to win here. This is definitely a bomber-friendly golf course. I was just looking at the GCSAA fact sheet that the PGA Tour puts out each week. The rough's only 1.25 inches long. For comparison, at the API and at the Players, 3 to 4 inches long was the rough. So definitely shorter rough this week, and with this being a longer course, the penalty for missing the fairway is very low here. There's not a lot of bunkers on the course, which does make scrambling, from the rough, scrambling from the fairway a little bit more important than usual. But yeah, I'm looking for bombers. And if you're not a bomber, I want you to be able to hit fairways and be good with your long irons. So guys like Aaron Rye, maybe JJ Spawn are pretty good fits here too. But preferably guys that are just long off the tee and really good tee to green. This is played as one of the top 12 most difficult courses in all 4 of the years it's been in the PGA Tour rotation. So kind of plays like a little bit of a easier major. Guys that play well on difficult courses seem to stand out here. Guys that play well in Texas, guys that play well on driver heavy courses. I'm looking at all these metrics and they are included in the model this week. Let's quickly take a look at what weights I put on everything. So pretty big weight to stroke gain off the tee, and then a 5% weight to driving distance. Pretty big weight to stroke gain approach, like always. 3% to green regulation. So typically the tougher the course, the more it benefits those that hit a lot of greens in regulation. And then 7% weight to strokes gained around the green. I do think that's going to come into play this week. Pretty low weight to strokes gained putting, where we've seen a lot of bad putters perform well here. Finau's won here. Kokrak's won here. Scheffler's played well here. Jaeger won here last year. So a lot of guys that are just really strong tee to green. So I don't mind bumping down putting a little bit this week. This is one of the lowest weights that I've given putting all year. Then pretty small weights to birdie or better and bogey avoidance. I have 4% to course history, 4% to driver heavy courses that are also pretty difficult relative to par. So guys that play the best on those courses, you have Scheffler, Rory, Wyndham Clark, Novak, and Tony Finau. Guys that play the best in windy conditions. It does look like there's going to be a pretty strong wind all 4 rounds. There could be some rain in the forecast as well. Speaking of rain and wind, man, we did not get the weather advantage that we thought we were going to get last week. The wrong side of the wave ended up being easier than the supposed right side of the wave. It just goes to show you sometimes we overact to these weather things. I certainly did last week, and it definitely paid off to be more contrarian last week at the Valspar. But guys that play the best on windy courses, you have Scheffler, Finau, Sungjae, Fishburne, who I do like as a play under 7K, and then Davis Thompson. And this strokes gained in Texas over the last 3 years. Scheffler, Finau, Hadwin. I don't know if anyone saw Hadwin. Ended up getting real mad at the Valspar last week. Tried to slam his club down. Slammed it right on top of a sprinkler, and the sprinkler ended up going off. They couldn't turn it off. I thought that was pretty funny. Davis Riley, who's played great here, surprisingly, and coming off of some pretty good form. A couple top 10s recently, plus 3 straight top 30s here. You might want to look his way in large field stuff. And then Gary Woodland, who we're all rooting for. Kind of want him to get back after the problems he's had. So hopefully he can get back into form. He's definitely a good ball striker. The short game just hasn't been there this year. Then we have the form and field strength. Obviously, you can adjust these to your liking. If you want to chase more upside, I'd look to these 2 columns here. More safety, I'd look here. And then you can do short-term, mid-term, long-term. Field strength, I put it at 9% this week. I usually have a little bit higher. But there were some other things that I wanted to weight a little bit higher this week. Okay, let's talk about the field. At the very top, we have Scheffler and Rory. Then there's a huge gap. So if you look at the outright odds, they're 3-1, 7-1, and then the next closest is like 28-1. So single entry cash games, it makes sense to start with one of the 2. I could certainly see Rory playing well here, but I do think Scheffler's my preferred option. He's got the course history angle. He's got the home state angle. He's from Texas, and he's got more motivation than Rory right now. He hasn't won this year. He wants to put together a nice finish before, defending his title at Augusta, while Rory's coming off of a win at the Players. So I think Scheffler is my favorite. but I don't mind starting with either of these guys. If you want to be contrarian, you could definitely start in the 9Ks. That's, if you start with two 9K guys instead of Rory or Scheffler, you're going to be unique. And then if the winner comes from the 9Ks, you might be in a really good spot for tournaments. So I might build the lineup with Scheffler and then a lineup with just 9K guys and below. We'll see how it ends up working out. Number 3 in the model, Aaron Rai. He's been great here, 7th, 7th, and 19th. Elite iron player, and he's not long off the tee, but he hits a ton of fairways, so he gains a bunch of strokes off the tee, which is kind of nice. Very good around the green and improving putter. Hits a ton of greens in regulation. I also like Tony Finau, who's finished 1st and 2nd here the last 2 years. He struggled in Florida, but that is pretty much always the case when it comes to Finau. So I don't mind looking towards him in tournaments. And then Matt McNeely, number 5 in the model. You can play him with Scheffler. You can play him with Rory. If you try to play Rory and Scheffler together, you're left with 6,400 on DraftKings, which just isn't doable this week because we don't have the 5K floor like we did the players. It's 6K floor, so you're really just not left with a lot of options if you play those two. For the second man into lineups, I do like McNeely. Prior to the Florida stretch, he'd made 10 straight cuts with the win and 4 top 10 finishes. He's been good in windy conditions. He's 3 for 3 here with all top 20, all top 30 finishes. So he's a guy that I'm going to be overweight on, probably going to make my single entry build as well. So I have a strong take on Hideki. I'm okay mixing in Davis Thompson and large field stuff. Don't have a strong take on Siwoo. I think Pendrit's a good course fit, and he has posted progressively better finishes here each of the last 3 years. Spawn, while I like him on paper, I would like him a lot more if he was 8,000. Paying 9,900 for him does seem like a lot, but certainly a guy that has shown that he can contend in these difficult courses and in these good fields. So I wouldn't write him off completely, but he's not my favorite guy in the 9Ks. Aussies do tend to play well in Texas, likely because they grew up playing in a lot of windy conditions. So if you want to look to Jason Day or Minwoo Lee in tournaments, I don't hate it, but again, probably better large field than small field tournament plays. Jaeger won here last year. Mitchell kind of rates out well for me. Griffin has been struggling a bit recently over the last 3 tournaments. He does have a pretty good track record here, but man, not very good on driver heavy courses or difficult courses. Not the best in the wind. So probably not my favorite play. And then we have Michael Kim, who's getting a ton of ownership. He's been great. This stretch has been awesome. He missed a cut at the number at the players. Other than that, he's been terrific. The 31% ownership scares me. I think that might come down a little bit. But if everyone's going to put him in as a second man into the lineup, I'd probably rather just go to McNeely, a lower ownership. But if you are building a balanced lineup, then I do think Michael Kim is interesting. So that's kind of the way that I like to play him, because a lot of people are just going to start Scheffler Kim or Rory Kim, and then automatically you're starting off with a very chalky build, which, I don't love. So for me, if you're playing Michael Kim, I would look for creative ways to get him into lineups. I don't understand why Grazerman's not getting a lot of ownership. So he missed a cut last week at the Players, or 2 weeks ago at the Players. Prior to that, he had made 17 straight cuts, and I think he had 11 top 25 finishes and 3 runner-ups during that stretch. And he finished 7th here last year. Might be one of my favorite plays on the board, everything considered. Andrew Novak, Sam Stevens, rate out extremely well for me. Sam Stevens, great in all 3 of the comps that I'm looking at. Novak's been great on driver heavy courses, really good tee to green guy. So I like both of them at 7,300. I never get Kitayama right, so I'm probably going to be off of him this week. I think Rogers is interesting after missing the cut his last time out. Prior to that, he had 4 straight top 25 finishes. Bridgman is chalk, doesn't feel great, so I'm probably going to be underweight on him. I get that he's been in good form in T21 at this course, but man, feels overpriced and overowned. That's kind of I don't mind if a guy's overpriced if he's low owned. I don't mind a guy if he's chalky, if he's underpriced, but when he's overpriced and overowned, that's kind of when I draw the line. In my player pool, I don't mind a little bit of Vegas and Hostler. Kevin Yu is a good course fit. Hoffman in Texas has always been a thing. Danny Walker, we have a very small sample, but he has been a very good ball striker in the times that we've seen him. Victor Perez has been playing a little bit better. Was T17 here last year. Don't mind looking at him in tournaments. Again, I like Fishburne as kind of a sneaky below 7K option. Harris English is kind of a driver-heavy, difficult golf course specialist. I'll play some of him in tournaments. Ryan Fox is a bomber that you can look to. He had some good ball striking numbers last week. The Hoygards are both in the field, so that's pretty good prices for them. They never really project that well for me because their stats on the PGA Tour aren't great, but don't mind looking at them in tournaments as well. And that should just about do it for me. Again, I don't love the 6Ks this week, so I'm probably going in my one lineup Scheffler and then McNeely, and then my balance build. Maybe I'll go with like Finau, Rye, Michael Kim, something like that. That'll do it for this week. Want to wish everyone the best of luck. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up on your way out. We'll catch you back here next week. The Masters 2 weeks away. Can't wait. Yeah, good luck, everybody.